Welcome to the second part of this tutorial about tips for drawing a floor plan. After completing all the exterior walls, I will continue teaching you here some drafting tips which will help you improving your abilities in the software. So, the first thing in this video, we will make this elevator here, but for that, I will introduce you the grid mode and snap mode. We can find both icons in the status bar here, but for most cases they are just useful when they work together. I mean, where I have both turned on or turned off. First, I show you them briefly. Grid mode is this icon, and it displays a grid in my workspace. Now I'm going to zoom in, and you can see that the grid is resizing few times. But at one point it will not resize anymore, and it's the moment when I know this distance. The snap mode is the icon which is next to the grid mode. I click on it. It doesn't do nothing now, but if I enter a drawing command, for example line, you can see the pointer moving only in certain points of the grid. So, all this can be editable if I click in this arrow and go to Snap Settings. So, the first tab is where I can edit the snap and the grid modes. And in this part, I can edit the snap spacing. At this moment, as I have 10 here, my pointer moves in distances of 10. 10 meters, which is too much for my drawing. So I would decrease it to a measurement that can be small enough for the things I need to draw in this floor plan. And I think 1 centimeter suits well. So I put 0.01 for both X and Y spacing. And as I have a tick in this box to have an equal X and Y spacings, every time I change one spacing, the other will follow. For grid spacing, I keep exactly the same as the snap. In this way, it snaps all the points of the grid. The major line spacing. I keep 5. And if you look to any major line, it's divided in 5 minor lines. I click OK. And now, if I activate a drawing command, for example line, you can see the pointer moving in distances of 1 centimeter, and it steps all the grid points. So let's go back to the floor plan. But before drawing anything, I want to show you something. Imagine you haven't used the grid and snap modes, and suddenly you turn both on. If you zoom until you reach the maximum at any specific detail of your floor plan, you may notice that your drawing doesn't match the grid lines. So if this happened to you, you can enter the command move by typing M and press enter. Now you select all your drawing, press enter, click in one of the endpoints, for example I go to this corner, and now I'm going to move everything to a corner of a major line. I keep zooming in until it's maximum zoom, and now I can click. Now if I check the different parts of this floor plan, I can notice it fits well in the grid. Okay, after these few tips, I will finally draw these details, which represents a lift. I'm going to start. The measurements are located in the PDF file, so you can easily follow it. Okay, I'm going to introduce you a new command, rectangle, because I have to draw 3 of them. To start the command, I type REC or click in that icon there. I go to this endpoint, I click on it, and now I have to insert first the distance in the x-axis, which is 1.8, and for the y-coordinates, as I'm drawing in opposite direction of the axis, I type minus 1.8. After I press enter to activate again rectangle, I click again in the same endpoint, and this time I use the grid to help me. As this distance I know will be 0.2, it means that this corner is located 2 squares from the corner below. And of course you have to be sure grid and snap mode is on. The third rectangle. I click again 2 squares from the second corner, and up there is the same. So as you see, it was still simple with this method. And be aware that rectangle is not actually a command. It's just an easy way to draw a polyline for rectangles or squares. Then the remaining parts of the lift you can make by yourself following the PDF, as they are simple. On the next section of this video, I'm going to insert the doors in the floor plan, but first I want to show you how to draw them. Okay, I will start with the door frame, and I use for that the command rectangle. I click to insert the first point, and then the second point I know it's located at 5 cm to the right and 10 cm up. Now I need to copy this rectangle also to the other side of the frame. For that I can use the command copy. I select all the objects, press enter, then I choose this base point. I drag the mouse horizontally to the right and type the length of the door, which is 0.9 meters, plus the frame, so in total 0.95. Then I press escape and draw a vertical line with the command line from here that represents the maximum opening of the door, and the length is of course the same, 0.9. Finally, I need an arc here, which can be made easily with the command arc. Let's see. To draw an arc, I have to go to that icon located there, but instead I click in the arrow below, because as you see there are plenty of ways to draw arcs, and we have to choose the one that is more suitable for us. I click in Start, Center, End. As by default the arcs are drawn anti-clockwise, I choose first this point. Then the center is the intersection with this line. And look now the direction of the arc. I click for the last point, here. Instead, if I would choose for the start point, this one, then the center in the same place, this is what happens. Okay, before going forward, there is one thing I haven't focused deeply in this video. The object snap. Do you remember these endpoints that appear? Also extensions or midpoints, which are used to snap the pointer exactly for these specific places. They can be set up in the arrow next to the object snap icon, this one. And in this list I can add or remove the object snap modes that I want. But if you want to know more about this, just click in the card that appears above. It's a specific tutorial for beginners about object snap. If you don't know much about this topic, I recommend to watch it. I think it's important. Okay, I finished the door, and as you remember, it's compounded by the different objects that I drew: arc, line, and rectangles. But if the entire door was just one object, I guess it would be better to select and do things with it. I will show you how to do this. Let's click in this icon there that says Create the block. Then in this panel, first I can choose a name for the block. For example, I write Door Standard. Right away, I have to select the objects of the block. I click in this icon, and then I select everything. I press Enter, and finally I have to pick a base point. Here says Specify on Screen, so if I click in OK, I have to choose the point which will provide me to move the block. Then you will understand. If I drag the mouse over, you see here block reference. This is very useful. If I want to insert a door, I click in this icon and here it is. Just place it where I want. Now we are ready to insert doors in the drawing. But first, I want to talk about layers. If we look to the floor plan, you can see that different kind of objects have different colors. In fact, they are grouped in layers, as this is a good technique for organization. In this case, I have the walls in one layer, the doors in another, the windows in another, and the same for the text or dimension lines. Let's see how this works. To access to the layer properties, I'm going to click in this icon here, or I can also type L. So this is the Layer Properties Manager. Here I can create new layers and edit them. I'm going to show you to create a layer for the walls and another for the doors. If I go here and click with the right button of the mouse, I can create a new layer. For the first one, I will type walls and press enter. Then I do the same but for the doors. In this section I can change the color. The walls I keep them white. But don't forget, this white color is transformed into black in the layout. And it's the only color that changes. All the others remain the same. For the doors, I'm going to change the color. For example, this one. I click in OK. Then I will move the objects to the right layers. For example, I'm going to select the doors. They are located now in the layer 0. I click here and change it to doors. Oh, I realized this color is too dark. So better to change it to a lighter one. Yes, don't remember if you use a dark workspace, you should use here light colors in order to see them. Then I select the walls, click in the tab above, and now change it to walls. So, going again to the Layer Properties Manager here, you can see the two new layers I created. So, if you want to know more about this topic, click in the card that appears right now, and in that video there are the basic concepts you must know about layers. Okay, so it's everything in this part 2. And on the part 3, I start showing to insert doors in the drawing I'll give you more tips about using blocks, like reversing the door with just one click, and more things. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done it yet. And again, if you need online private lessons, you can send me an email and I will give you all the details. So see you next time, maybe in part 3.